The war did not start with a speech or a warning. It started with a sound that did not belong to humans at all. A long, rising howl shook the metal bones of Outpost Helios, rolling through the corridors like a living thing. The night shift lights were soft and dim, casting the station in a calm blue glow. One moment, everything was quiet. The next, the whole structure shuddered as something slammed into the hull from the outside. Technician Aaron Hale grabbed his console to keep from falling out of his chair. Lines of errors exploded across his screens. External cameras went dark one after another. Shield readings jumped between numbers that made no sense. On the main comms channel, voices shouted over each other. These were trained soldiers and officers, but even through the static, Aaron heard something that did not belong in military voices: real fear. "Control to all decks, battle protocol." The duty officer shouted over the intercom. "Unknown contacts incoming. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill." Another impact hit harder than the first. The lights flickered and a few panels on the far wall sparked. Outpost Helios was only a remote research and supply station at the edge of a quiet system. The people here expected boredom, not war. Real battles, Aaron had always thought, belonged closer to the core worlds, not out here orbiting a dull orange star that no one cared about. He tried to pull up a working camera feed. Static washed the displays, then cleared just long enough for him to catch a glimpse. Something slid along the outer hull, too close and too big to be a normal ship. It did not move like metal. It moved like muscle and bone, like a creature crawling across the skin of the station. Aaron felt his throat go dry. Before he could zoom in, the feed died again, dropping back into snow. "Control, this is Security Team 3, a harsh voice crackled in his headset. "We've got claw marks on the outer airlock seals. I repeat, actual claw marks. What the hell is out there?" No one on the channel had an answer. Even the station AI sounded tense as it spoke over the speakers in its polite, neutral voice. "All personnel, please remain at assigned stations. Hull breach risk rising. Internal shutters deploying. Medical teams stand by." The words were calm, but all they did was remind everyone that things were getting worse. Aaron wanted to run, but there was nowhere to go. He was a systems tech, not a fighter. His job was to keep power, air, and data moving when everything else went wrong. Right now, almost everything was going wrong at once. He forced his hands to keep working, rerouting power to sensors, trying to find any clear picture of the attackers. A rough scan appeared. Several huge shapes pressed close against the hull, drifting in formation like black leeches. No identification beacons, no radio chatter, just silent mass and claws. The deck jumped under his boots as something tore at the metal. Distant gunfire rattled through the structure, tiny sharp pops carried by vibration. Somebody screamed over an open channel. Someone else yelled for a medic, and then their voice cut off. Emergency bulkheads slammed down in nearby corridors, thick doors thudding into place to hold the air in if the hull opened. Aaron watched the life support status dip, fight back up, then dip again. If the damage reached the reactors, they would all be dead long before any help arrived. A private channel lit up on his console. Captain Ray's. The man's voice was tight but still under control. "Hale, I need an answer fast. Can you reach the monitoring systems in the animal labs?" Aaron blinked. Of all the things to worry about right now, why the labs? "Some of them, sir," he said. "We're losing nodes all over, but I can try." Ray's did not waste words. "Do it. I need to know if the apex specimen is still in containment. If it gets loose while we're under attack, this station becomes a buffet." Aaron's stomach twisted. The apex specimen. He had never seen it directly, but he had seen the warning labels, glowing red on every door that led toward its chamber. Classified apex lifeform. Extreme caution. Armed escort required. The transfer crew had told stories once in the mess hall. They said the creature was bigger than any ground vehicle on the station, covered in dark fur that shimmered with faint lights, like a night sky laid across muscle. They said it had teeth for metal and claws for bulkheads. They also said it had been strangely calm in its cage, watching everyone with cold, bright eyes. If something outside was leaving claw marks on the hull, was it the same kind of creature? Was someone trying to break in and steal it, or break in and free it? Or had it somehow broken out and gone hunting? Aaron did not like any of those choices. He pushed the fear away and focused on the console. Fingers flying, he rerouted through damaged relays, forced open half-dead pathways, and pulled what was left of the lab network onto his screen. One by one, camera feeds flashed into view. A corridor filled with smoke and drifting sparks. A storage bay with crates spilled across the floor. A body near a doorway lying too still for comfort. Another feed showed a security team sprinting past, weapons up, faces tight with effort and terror. The whole lower level was chaos. Aaron swallowed hard and switched to the main containment chamber for the apex. For a moment the screen was black, his heart thudded loud in his ears. Then backup lights cut in, painting the chamber in a deep red-gold glow. He saw the thick glass wall of the primary enclosure, streaked with hairline cracks like spiderwebs. Steel supports were bent inward as if something huge had thrown itself against them again and again. The floor inside the enclosure was scorched and scarred, but the one thing he expected to see was not there. The cage was empty. Aaron stared, willing the creature to appear in some corner he had missed. Maybe it was lying flat, hidden by a shadow or a piece of broken wall. He cycled the camera angle. The view shifted, unsteady and grainy, showing every corner of the chamber. Empty. No vast dark shape, no glowing markings, no motion at all. The only signs of life were drifting motes of dust dancing in the emergency light. "Captain," he said, and his voice came out thin and dry. "The apex specimen is not in its enclosure." Silence met him for a long second. Somewhere in the background of the captain's channel, he heard a distant explosion and the muffled sound of shouted orders. When Reyes finally spoke, his words were slower and heavier. "Understood. Lock down every internal route leading away from that sector. If it's loose, we need to slow it down and track it. No hero work, Hale. You see it on any camera, you call me first." The channel clicked off. Aaron sat there listening to the faint hum of the damaged systems around him, feeling the station shake under another external blow. Unknown enemies crawled over the outside of Helios like hungry insects. Inside, somewhere between flickering lights and sealed doors, a living weapon walked free. For the first time in his life, Aaron truly understood how small he was. The unexpected war had come to their forgotten outpost, and the worst threat might not be out in the silent dark at all, but already sharing the same air. The alarms had stopped ringing, but the silence that followed felt even worse. It was the kind of silence that made the air feel heavier, as if the station itself was holding its breath. Aaron sat frozen for a moment, staring at the empty containment chamber. His mind tried to make sense of it, but the only thought that formed clearly was that the creature was loose, somewhere close, somewhere inside the same walls he was sitting in. He forced himself up from the console, wiping sweat from his palms onto his uniform. The station shook again from distant impacts. Dust drifted down from the ceiling vents. The creatures outside were still attacking, crawling and tearing at the hull, and nobody understood why. Between them and the escaped apex predator inside, the outpost felt like it was being squeezed between two jaws. It was hard to know which threat was worse. His headset crackled. "Security Team 2 to control. We have movement near Sector D. Large shape on motion sensors. Very large. Could be our missing specimen." Aaron leaned closer to his screens, trying to gain access to the Sector D cameras. Most of them were dead. The few that worked showed only flickering halls and drifting smoke. He tried to sharpen one feed and caught a dark blur at the far end of the corridor. The shape slid past the frame before he could get a clear look. Something about the movement felt strange. Strong, fluid, but not wild. Not like a beast rampaging. It moved with purpose. He hesitated before calling the captain again. "Reyes, I have partial visuals. It's moving away from the lower labs, heading toward maintenance corridors." "Maintenance," Reyes answered. What would it want down there? Aaron didn't know. There was nothing special in those corridors, just power cables, access pipes, coolant lines, and repair stations. Unless the creature sensed something there, or someone. A loud clatter echoed from the hall outside Aaron's control room. He jumped, heart pounding. He reached for the small emergency tool blade mounted under the console. It wasn't a weapon, just a cutting knife used for opening power casings, but holding it made his shaking hands feel a little more steady. The footsteps outside were hurried, uneven. Not claws, boots. The door slid open and Officer Nelrin stumbled inside. His uniform was torn at the shoulder, greenish alien skin scraped raw, and his breathing came out in harsh bursts. His wide silver eyes darted around the room before he slumped against the wall. "Hail, the creature," Nelrin gasped. "It took down an entire team, not to kill, it just pushed through us." Aaron steadied the officer, helping him sit. "Did it attack anyone?" "Only enough to move past, it could have killed us." Nelrin swallowed, it didn't. That detail stuck in Aaron's mind. If the apex predator wanted bodies, the station would already be full of them. Instead, it was moving with intention, ignoring fights unless blocked, almost like it was trying to reach something or someone. "Where did it go last?" Aaron asked. "Upward levels," Nelrin said, "toward the maintenance ring." Aaron's stomach dropped. "That's where the ground teams work. That's where the human staff usually stay. What if?" A new voice crashed into the comms channel before he could finish. "This is Ground's division. We just lost power in our south wing. Something big is moving through the vents." Aaron and Nelrin exchanged wide-eyed looks. Aaron pushed to the consoles again, forcing dead cameras to flicker back. One hallway showed a large dent in a vent cover, metal bent outward like thin foil. Another showed claw marks along the floor, but shallow ones, more like careful steps than attacks. "How close is Ground's division to your friend?" Nelrin asked quietly. Aaron's chest tightened. "Jacob is working there tonight." Jacob wasn't a soldier. He wasn't even a technician. He was a groundsman, someone who cared for machinery, grew station plants, fixed loose tiles, and fed the small research animals. He was the calmest person Aaron had ever met. He didn't belong in a war zone or in a station with monsters tearing the walls apart. Aaron opened a private channel. "Jacob, come on, answer me." Static hissed back. He tried another line. "Jacob, it's Aaron. If you hear this, get somewhere safe. The apex creature might be headed your way." Still nothing. Nelrin pushed himself upright. "We need to move. If the creature's path leads to the ground's wing, there's a reason. Maybe it smells food or heat." "Or..." "No," Aaron said softly. "It wasn't acting like a hunter." "Then what?" Aaron didn't know. But if the apex predator was seeking Jacob, or something Jacob worked with, then the danger was unbelievable. Without thinking, he grabbed his tool belt and stepped toward the door. "Where are you going?" Nelrin demanded. "To find him. That thing will tear you apart. Not if I reach Jacob first." Nelrin cursed under his breath, then followed. "Fine, but if we die, it's your idea, not mine." The corridors outside were dim, lit only by emergency strips lining the floor. Smoke curled from vents. Loose wires dangled from the ceiling like dark vines. The whole station groaned under the constant outside attacks. Whatever was crawling over the hull still hadn't stopped. The distant echoes sounded like claws scraping metal. Aaron and Nelrin moved quickly, listening for any sign of the apex predator. Twice they froze when something large shifted the air in nearby vents. Once they heard a low rumbling sound, like a growl held deep in a throat, but it didn't come closer. Instead, it moved ahead of them toward the maintenance wing. They reached a branching corridor. One path led toward the repair bay, the other led toward the groundsman's break area. The lights there flickered more violently, casting long shadows that shifted with each blink. Aaron checked his scanner. A faint heat trail showed something massive had passed through recently. The size matched the apex predator. And the trail led straight toward Jacob's area. He stepped forward, but Nelrin grabbed his arm. "Wait, look." A set of heavy claw marks scored the wall, but they were curved in a strange way, almost gentle, as if the creature had touched the surface without trying to break it. Aaron swallowed. "It's not attacking anything, it's searching." "Searching for what?" A sudden metal crash from ahead made both of them whip around. The echo rolled down the hall, followed by a deep, heavy breathing sound. Not human. Aaron tightened his grip on the small tool blade. His legs trembled, but he forced himself to keep moving. They reached the final door leading into the ground sector. It hung half open, its lock bent by something strong. Inside, the lights glowed faintly gold. The air smelled of soil and plant nutrients, Jacob's work area. Aaron stepped in slowly, heart hammering, eyes scanning the shadows. Then he saw it. The giant shape lay curled on the floor, fur glowing like a starry sky. Its huge head rested against something or someone leaning against the wall. Jacob. And Jacob wasn't dead. He sat there calmly, eyes half closed, one hand resting gently on the creature's neck as if comforting a frightened animal. The apex predator breathed softly, not with hunger or rage, but with peaceful trust. Nelrin whispered, How is this possible?" Aaron didn't know, but Jacob slowly looked up, saw him, and smiled faintly. "It wasn't trying to escape," Jacob said quietly. "It was just trying to come home." The creature's slow breathing filled the quiet room, a deep and steady rhythm that felt strange inside a station filled with alarms and fear. Its huge body curved protectively around Jacob, as if the human was something precious it could not let go. Emergency lights painted both of them in warm gold, and for a moment, Aaron forgot about the war outside. He forgot about the creatures crawling over the hull. He forgot about the broken cameras and burning corridors. All he could see was the impossible sight in front of him, Jacob sitting peacefully with a living weapon. Aaron stepped closer, careful not to startle the predator. It lifted its head slightly, glowing eyes tracking Aaron's movement. Aaron froze, breath catching in his throat. The creature didn't growl, it didn't bare its teeth. It simply watched him with an intelligent calm that felt almost human. The air seemed to vibrate with the quiet power it held back. Jacob reached out and stroked the creature's neck, and the huge muscles relaxed again. "Easy," he whispered to it, his voice soft. "He's a friend." Aaron had never heard Jacob speak that way. It was the tone someone used with a scared child or with a pet that trusted them too much to understand danger. Nelrin stood behind Aaron, gripping his weapon but not raising it. His eyes were wide and uncertain. "I don't understand," the alien officer said. "That thing destroyed walls, it pushed through an armed team. How is it sitting like this with him?" Aaron swallowed and moved closer to Jacob. "You need to explain. How long have you known it could do this?" Jacob didn't answer at first. His hand rested gently behind the predator's ear, and the creature's eyes half closed, comforted by the touch. Only then did Jacob speak. "It remembers me." Aaron blinked. "That doesn't make sense." "It does," Jacob said quietly. "Before it was brought here, I worked with the transport crew for a few hours. They needed help stabilizing the cryo container, so they called for the closest maintenance worker. That was me." He smiled faintly, eyes distant. "The container was cracked, the creature was hurt, it woke up halfway, it saw me, only me. I stayed beside it until they sedated it again, just talked to it. I didn't think it could understand." Nelrin stared at the creature, voice hushed. "It formed a bond." "Not a normal one," Jacob said. "It imprinted. I didn't realize how strong until now." Aaron looked at the apex predator. It was far larger than Jacob, a creature that could crush him with one paw or bite through metal like cloth. But here it was, curled against him as gently as a house pet seeking warmth. The glow along its stripes flickered softly, calming instead of threatening. Outside the room, the station groaned again. The enemy creatures continued their attack, making sharp scratching sounds that crawled through the air vents. The apex predator lifted its head a little at the noise, ears twitching. It didn't look afraid, it looked alert, protective. Jacob felt the change too, his hand rested against the creature's shoulder. It knows something is wrong, it can sense them. Aaron stepped beside him. "Jacob, the station is falling apart. The captain needs information, if it knows anything." The predator suddenly rose, stretching its long, powerful limbs. Its glowing stripes brightened, pulsing like a heartbeat. Jacob stood with it, steadying himself against its side. "It wants to move," he said, then he corrected himself. "It wants to protect us." Nelrin didn't look convinced, "Or it wants to hunt." Jacob shook his head. "No. It's been gentle the whole time. It only pushed people aside when they tried to stop it from coming to me." The creature leaned its head against Jacob's shoulder, reinforcing his words with calm certainty. Aaron felt a strange shift inside himself. Fear was still there, but something else too, hope, unexpected and fragile. If it wants to protect us, maybe we can use that. Maybe it can help fight off whatever is outside. Nelrin opened his mouth to argue, but the predator suddenly snapped its head toward the door. Its ears flattened. A low rumble grew in its chest, not directed at them, but at something approaching. Jacob touched its fur. "What is it?" "What do you hear?" Aaron heard it a moment later. Footsteps, military ones, heavy, ordered, moving fast. The door slid open, and a squad of alien soldiers stormed in with rifles raised. Their eyes widened at the sight of the apex predator standing next to Jacob. The leader shouted, "Don't move, step away from the beast." Jacob raised his hands. "Wait, don't shoot." The predator stepped in front of him, growling deep and loud. The soldiers tightened their grips, ready to fire. Aaron pushed forward. "Stop, stop. If you shoot, it will kill all of us. It's not attacking. Look at Jacob." The soldiers hesitated. The leader glared at Aaron. "We were ordered to neutralize it on sight." Jacob shook his head desperately. "If you attack it, you'll only make it violent. It's calm now. It can help us. The creature's outside. It senses them. It knows they're here." The predator growled again, but not as loud. It watched the soldiers, ready but not launching forward. The leader lowered his weapon slightly. "Help us how?" "By tearing through the station." "No," Aaron said quickly. "It's intelligent. It understands danger. It came all the way here for Jacob. It can fight those things outside better than we can." Another heavy tremor hit the station. Lights flickered. Screams echoed faintly down the corridor. The enemy creatures were getting inside. The leader clenched his jaw. If this goes wrong, the captain will blame us, but if we waste time arguing, we lose the whole station. He pointed at Jacob. You keep it under control. If it makes one wrong move, we all shoot. Jacob nodded, swallowing hard. It won't hurt anyone unless you try to hurt me. The predator bumped Jacob gently, then stepped toward the door. Its bioluminescent stripes flared brighter, casting the room in shimmering light. Aaron felt the hairs on his arms rise. Something powerful was waking inside the creature: instinct, strength, purpose. Jacob whispered, "It's ready." The soldiers stepped back, giving space. Aaron followed Jacob and the creature into the corridor. Smoke drifted through the lights. Far above them, a metal shriek echoed through the station as one of the outer doors buckled. The apex predator raised its head and growled with fierce intensity, the sound vibrating through the walls. Then it started walking toward the danger with steady, determined steps. Jacob stayed close beside it. Aaron felt a chill. For the first time since the attack began, the station did not feel helpless. It felt like something unstoppable had finally woken up. The corridor felt alive as the apex predator moved through it, its glowing stripes lighting the smoke-filled air with shifting blue and violet. Every step made a soft thrum on the metal floor, each movement smooth and confident. It walked like something that understood its own power and no longer felt the need to hide it. Jacob stayed close, one hand lightly touching its fur, guiding it even though it clearly knew where it wanted to go. Aaron followed a few steps behind, heart pounding, trying to keep up while the soldiers spread out around them with tense movements. The station shook again as something heavy struck the hull. Sparks rained down from a cracked ceiling panel. The predator lifted its head and growled, low and slow, like a warning sent through the walls themselves. Jacob looked toward the ceiling. "It hears everything," he whispered. "Those things outside, they're trying to get inside the upper decks now." Nelrin pointed down the corridor. "They may already be inside. We lost 2 teams near the ventilation hubs." His voice carried fear under the surface, but he kept his weapon steady. The soldiers behind him watched the predator with nervous eyes, unsure whether to trust it or aim at it. They reached a junction where the smell of burning metal drifted from the right. The predator paused, sniffed the air, then turned left instead. Its steps grew quicker. Jacob watched it closely. "It's following a trail," he said. "Something is near, something alive." Aaron tightened his grip on his tool blade. He knew the small tool was useless against the monsters outside, but holding it helped him feel less helpless. He glanced at Jacob. "Are you sure you can keep it calm?" Jacob nodded weakly. "It's calm because it knows me, if it thinks I'm in danger." He didn't finish, but Aaron understood. If Jacob got hurt, the predator would stop being gentle. It would stop caring about walls or orders. It would tear the station apart to protect him. They moved down another hallway, passing torn panels and dents along the walls. Lights flickered weakly. A distant scream echoed, sharp and short. The predator growled and quickened its pace. They followed it into a large machinery room filled with tall pipes and humming generators. This place usually felt warm and loud, but now it was cold and quiet, with shadows stretching across the floor. Nelrin motioned to his team to spread out. "Watch the vents," he whispered. "These creatures dropped in from above before." Before Aaron could answer, a metal grate on the far wall shifted. Everyone froze. A long, thin claw slipped out between the bars. Then another. A wet, chittering sound filled the room, echoing off the pipes. Jacob stepped back instinctively, and the predator moved in front of him instantly, placing its huge body like a living shield. The grate tore open with a screech, and one of the invading creatures dropped into the room. It was long and bony, with dark plates running down its back. Its eyes glowed faint yellow, and its mouth split open to reveal rows of sharp teeth. It hissed at the group, stepping forward with jerky movements. The soldiers raised their weapons. "Don't shoot unless you have a clear line." The path to the upper decks felt longer than Aaron remembered. Every hallway carried the marks of the invasion. Scorched walls, shattered lights, and trails of dark fluid that belonged to none of the station's crew. The air tasted metallic from smoke and coolant leaks. Each step echoed strangely, as if the station itself was groaning under the pressure of 2 powerful forces, the invaders trying to break in and the apex predator moving inside with purpose. The soldiers stayed close, watching every shadow and vent. Jacob walked beside the predator, speaking to it in a soft voice whenever it growled at distant sounds. Somehow, the creature listened to him every time, calming as soon as it heard his voice. When they reached the lift, the power flickered and the doors struggled to open. Aaron tapped the control panel, rerouting energy just long enough for the lift to move. They entered, though the soldiers hesitated, unsure if they wanted to be sealed in a small box with the predator. But the creature simply sat, curling its tail around Jacob as the lift began its slow climb. The humming machinery vibrated under their feet. Halfway up, a loud metallic impact struck the outside of the lift shaft. The lift jerked violently. One soldier stumbled into a wall. The predator immediately stood protective, lowering its head with a deep rumble. Jacob held onto its fur. "It's all right," he said, though his voice shook. "We're almost there." The lift doors opened to chaos. Smoke filled the air, alarms blared, and emergency lights flashed red. Pieces of ceiling had fallen, littering the floor. A long smear of claw marks ran across one wall. A dead invader lay near a broken console, its body twisted at an unnatural angle. The predator sniffed the air, then growled sharply. Jacob followed its gaze. The control center was only a short hallway away, but the doors were wide open, and strange, screeching noises came from inside. Nelrin signaled his team. "We go together, watch your corners." The predator didn't wait for orders. It moved first, its body low to the ground as it slipped through the debris. Jacob hurried after it. Aaron followed, heart pounding harder with every step. When they entered the control center, the scene hit them like a wave. 3 invaders were tearing apart equipment, ripping into data panels, smashing communication arrays with wild force. Sparks and shattered displays filled the room. Captain Reyes and a few defenders struggled to hold a defensive position, fighting with desperate energy as the invaders pressed closer. Reyes fired at one of them, shouting orders that were drowned out by the screeching creatures. "Hold the line, don't let them reach the core relay." The predator answered with a roar so loud it silenced every sound for one brief moment. The invaders froze and turned. The creature charged, slamming into the nearest enemy with tremendous force. The impact sent both bodies crashing into a row of monitors. The soldiers stared in disbelief as the predator fought, moving with speed and precision no human soldier could match. It tore into one attacker, flung another across the room, and pinned the third beneath its claws. The predator's glowing stripes brightened with every strike, illuminating the room like living lightning. Reyes stared wide-eyed. "What in the stars is that thing doing here?" Jacob stepped forward, breathless. "Helping us." Reyes blinked, struggling to process the scene. "Helping? That thing was classified as extremely dangerous." "It still is," Aaron said, stepping beside Jacob. "But it's on our side." Before Reyes could reply, another tremor shook the station. A deep groaning sound came from the hull. Aaron checked the nearest console, which flickered with faint power. "Captain, the invaders are breaking through the exterior shields. If they get to the main power core, we lose everything." Reyes clenched his jaw. "They're not here to kill us, they're after something else." Jacob looked at the predator. The creature lifted its head, listening. "They're after it," Jacob said. "They came for the apex." Reyes nodded slowly. "That explains the attack pattern. They're trying to corner it." The predator growled at the outer wall, sensing something approaching. Aaron followed its gaze. Small cracks spread across the metal as if something was pounding from the outside. The soldiers raised weapons. Another crack appeared, dust fell, and then a large section of the hull gave way with a sharp explosion. Cold air burst into the room. A huge invader crawled through the hole, larger than the ones they had seen before, its armor thicker and its claws longer. It hissed at the predator with a sound that made Aaron's skin crawl. The predator stepped forward, positioning itself between the crew and the invader. Its glowing stripes flared brighter, filling the room with fierce violet light. Jacob placed a hand on its shoulder. The creature growled deeper than before, a sound that shook the air. The large invader lunged first. The predator met it with equal force. The clash was violent, sending shockwaves across the room. Sparks burst from damaged machinery. Soldiers ducked for cover. The predator and the invader slammed into the wall, claws tearing metal. The invader tried to bite the predator's neck, but the predator twisted, pushing it back with powerful kicks. Aaron watched helplessly, knowing they couldn't intervene without risking hitting the predator. Jacob shouted encouragement, voice shaking. "You can do it! We're right here!" The invader grabbed the predator's tail, yanking hard. The predator snarled, whipped around, and slashed its claws across the enemy's chest, carving deep glowing wounds. The invader shrieked, stumbling. The predator pounced, using all its weight to crush it against the floor. The invader fought for a moment longer, then fell still. Breathing hard, the predator stepped off the body. Its stripes slowly dimmed to a calmer glow. Jacob rushed forward, checking it for injuries, but the creature only nudged him gently, reassuring him with a soft rumble. Reyes stared at the scene with disbelief. "I've never seen anything like this. It's protecting you, protecting all of us." Aaron nodded. "We need to use that. We still don't know how many invaders are inside. The Predator can track them better than sensors." Reyes took a deep breath. "Then we follow it. If this is our weapon, then we use it to take back the station." Jacob placed both hands on the creature's fur. "Ready?" he whispered. The Predator growled with determined strength, stepping toward the exit. The war inside the station was far from over. But now the apex Predator was leading the fight. The Predator led them through the smoking corridors with steady, powerful steps. It no longer moved like a hunted creature. It moved like a guardian, confident and ready to face anything that threatened the station. Jacob walked beside it, touching its fur when it growled too sharply, keeping it calm and focused. Aaron followed close behind, watching both Jacob and the Predator, hoping neither would fall or get separated. The soldiers moved with new energy, no longer running from enemies but following something stronger than any of them. Even Captain Reyes seemed different now, walking with a determined look that had been missing since the attack began. They reached a long corridor leading to the main reactor chamber. If the invaders broke through there, the station would explode within minutes. Smoke drifted through broken vents. The walls were cracked. Distant metal screeches echoed like something clawing through layers of the station. The Predator stopped suddenly, lowering its head. Jacob touched its shoulder. "What is it?" he whispered. The creature sniffed the air, then growled, turning its head toward a side passage that was almost completely dark. Its glowing stripes brightened like warning lights. Reyes checked his wrist display. According to sensors, 6 large contacts are moving toward the core. He looked at Aaron. "If they reach the reactor, we're finished. Even the Predator can't stop an explosion." Aaron nodded. "Then we stop them before they get there." The Predator growled again, deeper this time, and started down the dark side passage. The crew followed, weapons ready. The hall sloped downward, filled with scattered debris. Something skittered above them. The soldiers aimed upward nervously. The Predator leaped suddenly, smashing through a fallen support beam. Behind it lay a large room filled with pipes and coolant tanks. It was supposed to be empty. Now it was crawling with invaders. 6 of them turned at the same time, their glowing eyes locking onto the Predator. Their bodies tensed. Their plates opened slightly, revealing jagged edges meant for killing. They hissed in unison. Jacob felt the Predator's muscles tighten under his hand. "Easy," he whispered, though he knew there was no real way to calm a creature preparing for battle. The Predator stepped forward, placing itself between the crew and the swarm of invaders. The largest invader, bigger than the one in the control center, screeched and charged. The Predator roared back, a sound so loud the metal tanks vibrated. It met the leader with a crushing tackle, slamming it into the floor. The other invaders rushed forward. The soldiers fired into the swarm, hitting 2 of the creatures and slowing them down, but not stopping them. Aaron ducked behind a coolant tank as claws struck the metal above his head. Jacob stayed close to the Predator, trusting it completely, even when the room shook from the violence of the clash. The Predator slashed at one attacker, sending it flying across the room. Another creature leaped from the shadows toward Jacob. Nelrin fired a rapid burst, knocking it off course. The Predator saw the danger and spun, grabbing the creature midair and throwing it against the far wall with deadly force. Jacob stumbled back, breathing hard. "Thank you," he whispered, knowing the Predator understood. 2 invaders circled from behind. Aaron shouted, pointing. The Predator reacted instantly, using its long tail to knock one aside while facing the other. The room echoed with roars, screeches, and the sharp crack of weapons fire. Sparks burst from broken panels. Pipes hissed as coolant leaked into the air. Everything felt like chaos, but in the center of it, Jacob saw something clearly. The Predator wasn't just fighting, it was protecting. Every attack, every movement, every roar was aimed to shield Jacob and everyone behind him. Reyes fired at an invader climbing the wall. "Keep them away from the reactor," he shouted. "Stop them here." The Predator bit into the neck of one creature and flung it aside, then pounced on another, crushing it under its weight. The largest invader rose again, charging with renewed fury. It slammed the Predator into a coolant tank so hard the metal dented inward. Jacob gasped, taking a step forward. "No!" he shouted. The Predator growled in pain but forced itself to stand, shaking off the impact. The large invader lunged again. This time the Predator met it head-on. Their bodies collided with a thunderous crack. The predator dug its claws into the enemy's armor, tearing through it with raw strength. With a final powerful strike, it knocked the invader to the ground and crushed it completely. Silence followed for a moment. Only the hum of damaged machinery filled the air. The remaining two invaders hissed weakly, wounded and cornered. The soldiers finished them quickly with precise shots. When the last creature fell still, the predator stood tall in the center of the room, glowing stripes pulsing slowly as it breathed. Jacob approached it carefully, placing a hand on its warm fur. "You did it," he whispered. "You protected all of us." Aaron looked around the ruined room. "If these were the ones heading to the reactor, then we stopped the worst of it." Reyes checked the scanner again. No more large signatures, only small ones scattered. The predator should be able to track the rest. The predator leaned its head against Jacob's shoulder, exhausted but calm. Jacob stroked it gently. "It's tired," he said softly, "but it's still ready." Reyes stepped forward and placed a hand on Jacob's arm. "You saved this station. Not just you, but whatever bond you have with this creature. It changed everything." Jacob shook his head. "It trusted me first."